The warning lights screamed across Luna Station's command center as sensor arrays picked up something that should not exist. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez stared at her screen, checking the readings 3 times before calling her superior. The signature was unmistakable, yet impossible. The UES Horizon's Edge had been missing for 15 years, declared lost with all hands in the vast emptiness between Earth and the Kepler system. "Sir, you need to see this," Rodriguez called to Commander Paul Bennett, who rushed over with coffee, still steaming in his hand. His face went pale as he read the data streaming across the monitors. "That's impossible," Bennett whispered. "Run a full diagnostic on the sensor array. This has to be a malfunction." 3 diagnostics later, the readings remained the same. The ship was real, approaching Earth at impossible speeds and broadcasting the correct identification codes. Within hours, every major military installation in the solar system was buzzing with activity. The Terran Defense Fleet scrambled 6 destroyers and 2 cruisers to intercept the vessel, with Captain David Torres of the TDF vigilant leading the formation. Torres had been a young lieutenant when the Horizon's Edge disappeared. He remembered the search efforts, the families crying on news broadcasts, and the official declaration that marked humanity's first major loss in deep space exploration. Now, staring at the tactical display showing the approaching vessel, he felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's climate control. "Captain, we're getting a clear visual," reported Navigation Officer Lisa Kim. The main screen flickered to life, showing a ship that was both familiar and completely alien. The basic hull structure matched the original Horizon's Edge, but the surface gleamed with a metallic sheen that seemed to bend light around it. Strange geometric patterns covered sections of the hull, pulsing with faint energy signatures that their sensors couldn't identify. "Sir, they're hailing us." Communications. Officer Robert Walsh announced, his voice tight with tension. "Put them through," Torres ordered. Though his hand instinctively moved toward the weapons console, the face that appeared on screen was one that Torres recognized from historical records. Captain Rebecca Stone looked exactly as she had 15 years ago, not a day older, with the same sharp green eyes and determined expression. Her uniform was different, though, made from materials that seemed to shift color in the light. "TDF Vigilant, this is Captain Rebecca Stone of the UES Horizon's Edge, requesting permission to dock at Luna Station." "It's good to see friendly faces again." Torres felt his mouth go dry. "Captain Stone, your ship was declared missing 15 years ago. We need to verify your identity and run security protocols." Stone's expression remained calm, almost amused. "I understand your caution, Captain Torres. We've been away longer than intended. Please escort us to Luna Station. We have much to discuss with Earth Command." The journey to Luna Station took 6 hours, during which Torres and his crew ran every scan possible on the mysterious vessel. The results were more disturbing than reassuring. The ship's hull was composed of materials that didn't exist in any human database. The engine signatures showed no fusion reactions, no antimatter containment, and no recognizable propulsion method. Yet the ship moved with perfect precision, matching their formation speed without any visible effort. "Captain, I'm detecting gravitational anomalies around their ship," reported Science Officer Diana Park. "It's like they're somehow manipulating local spacetime. The readings don't make sense according to our understanding of physics." Torres ordered constant communication with Earth Command, relaying every detail of their observations. The response from Admiral Patricia Hayes was terse and direct: treat the vessel as potentially hostile, maintain safe distance, and prepare for immediate evacuation of Luna Station if necessary. As they approached Luna Station, the Horizon's Edge performed a docking maneuver that defied explanation. Instead of using thrusters or guide systems, the ship simply glided into the docking bay as if gravity itself was pulling it into perfect alignment. The massive vessel, which should have required extensive support systems and careful maneuvering, settled into place with the gentle precision of a feather landing on still water. Captain Stone was the first to disembark, followed by her senior staff. They walked through the airlock with confident steps, breathing Luna Station's atmosphere as if they had never been away. Torres met them in the docking bay, flanked by a full security detail in combat armor. "Welcome back, Captain Stone," Torres said formally, though his eyes searched her face for any sign of deception or alien influence. "Admiral Hayes is waiting to debrief you and your crew." Stone nodded, then gestured to her companions. "May I present my senior staff? Commander Frank Miller, Chief Engineer Sarah Chun, and Science Officer Dr. Michael Foster. They've all been eager to return home." Torres studied each face carefully. Like Stone, they appeared unchanged by their 15-year absence. Their skin had a subtle luminescence, and their eyes held depths that seemed almost infinite. When they moved, it was with a fluid grace that suggested enhanced physical capabilities. "Captain Stone, I have to ask directly," Torres said. "Where have you been for the past 15 years? Stone's smile was enigmatic. "We've been learning, Captain Torres. Learning from teachers who saw potential in humanity. We never intended to be gone so long, but the education we received was more extensive than we initially understood." "What kind of education?" "The kind that changes everything," Stone replied. "The kind that will determine whether humanity is ready to join something much larger than ourselves." As they walked through Luna Station's corridors toward the conference rooms, Torres noticed something else unsettling. The other crew members spoke in perfect synchronization when answering questions, as if they shared some form of collective consciousness. Yet their individual personalities remained distinct, and they showed genuine emotion when discussing their return to human space. The debriefing was scheduled to begin in 2 hours, but Torres already knew that nothing would ever be the same. The horizon's edge had returned, but it had brought with it questions that would challenge everything humanity thought they knew about the universe and their place in it. Standing in the observation deck, watching the impossible ship rest peacefully in the docking bay, Torres couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something that would change human civilization forever. Dr. William Cross had seen many impossible things in his 40 years as Earth's leading xenobiologist, but nothing had prepared him for the medical reports streaming across his desk. The blood samples from the Horizon's Edge crew defied every principle of human biology he understood. Their cellular structure had been fundamentally altered, with DNA sequences that incorporated elements not found anywhere in Earth's evolutionary history. "This is unprecedented," Cross muttered, adjusting his glasses as he studied the genetic analysis. "Their cells are regenerating at rates that should be impossible. The aging process appears to have been completely halted, and in some cases, reversed." Admiral Patricia Hayes paced behind him in the secure medical facility beneath Luna Station. The past week had been a whirlwind of tests, interviews, and increasingly disturbing discoveries. The crew of the Horizon's Edge submitted to every examination with patient cooperation, but their answers to questions remained frustratingly vague. "Doctor, explain to me how human beings can have their DNA rewritten," Hayes demanded. "And more importantly, explain how they're still human." Cross pulled up a holographic display showing the genetic comparisons. "The base human genome is intact, but there are additions. Sequences that enhance neural pathways, improve cellular repair, and boost immune system function. It's like someone took human DNA and optimized it using knowledge we don't possess. Are they still human? Biologically? Yes, mostly. Mentally? That's where things get interesting." Cross switched to brain scan images. "Their neural activity shows patterns we've never seen before. They're processing information at rates that should cause severe brain damage, yet they remain perfectly stable." In the adjacent room, Captain Stone sat calmly as technicians ran their 100th scan of the day. Her patience seemed infinite, and she answered each question with the same measured responses about learning and growth. When asked about specific technologies, she would demonstrate rather than explain. "Show me how the gravity manipulation works," Dr. Cross had asked during their 3rd session. Stone simply stood and walked to the center of the room. Without any visible effort or equipment, she began to rise into the air, rotating slowly as if underwater. Objects around her lifted as well, dancing in complex patterns that followed her gestures. After a few minutes, she settled back to the ground with everything returning to normal. It's a matter of understanding the relationship between matter and space-time, Stone explained. The architects taught us that gravity is not a force to be overcome, but a conversation to be joined. The architects? The beings who educated us. They've been watching humanity for centuries, waiting to see if we would develop the wisdom to use knowledge responsibly. These conversations were recorded and analyzed by teams of scientists, linguists, and psychologists. The consensus was disturbing. The crew appeared to be telling the truth, but the implications were staggering. If alien beings had been observing humanity for centuries, it suggested that Earth's development was neither random nor isolated, Commander Frank Miller demonstrated. The ship's matter conversion capabilities by transforming a steel wrench into a perfect diamond, then back into steel. The process happened at the molecular level, with no energy expenditure that their instruments could detect. The principles are simple once you understand the underlying structure of matter, Miller explained. Everything is energy indifferent. Configurations. The architects taught us to see those configurations and adjust them as needed. Chief Engineer Sarah Chun showed how the ship's propulsion system worked by creating a temporary wormhole in the laboratory. The small portal, barely large enough for a marble, connected 2 points in space that were several meters apart. Objects passed through instantly, with no apparent energy loss. Space-time is more flexible than humans originally believed, Chun said. Distance is just another variable that can be modified with the right approach. The implications were staggering. If the Horizon's Edge crew could manipulate gravity, transform matter, and create wormholes, they possessed capabilities that made them more powerful than entire fleets. Yet they showed no interest in using these abilities for personal gain or dominance. Dr. Michael Foster, the ship's science officer, provided the most disturbing revelation during his interview with Dr. Cross. The technologies we're showing you are considered basic tools by the architects. What we learned in 15 years represents perhaps 1% of what they tried to teach us. 1%? Cross asked. Human minds, even enhanced ones, can only absorb so much before reaching capacity. The architects were very careful not to overwhelm us. They said that other species had been driven insane by attempting to learn too much too quickly. What happened to those species? Foster's expression darkened. They either became cold and logical, losing all emotional connection to their original nature, or they descended into madness from the expanded awareness. The architects were impressed that humans managed to retain their essential character while adapting to new knowledge. The psychological evaluations revealed another puzzling aspect. Despite their enhanced capabilities, the crew members displayed normal human emotions. They laughed at jokes, formed friendships, argued over minor details, and showed concern for their families back on Earth. Their personalities remained distinct and recognizable, even after 15 years of alien education. It's like they've become more human, not less, noted Dr. Angela Martinez, the chief psychologist. Their emotional range has actually expanded. They show deeper empathy, greater patience, and more complex reasoning abilities. The technical specifications they provided freely defied human understanding. The mathematics involved in their technologies required quantum computers running for days just to process basic equations. Earth's greatest minds found themselves struggling with concepts that the crew explained as elementary principles. "We're not trying to hide anything," Captain Stone assured Admiral Hayes during their final interview of the week. The architects specifically instructed us to share our knowledge freely. They want to see how humanity responds to gifts that could reshape your civilization. And if we respond poorly? Stone's expression became serious. Then we'll have our answer about whether humanity is ready for what comes next. The week concluded with a demonstration that left everyone speechless. The entire crew of the Horizon's Edge gathered in Luna Station's main docking bay and, working together, created a localized weather system. Clouds formed in the enclosed space, rain fell in controlled patterns, and small lightning bolts danced between their fingers. Weather is just another form of energy organization, Stone explained as the artificial storm dissipated. The architects taught us that humans have always had the potential for this level of control. We just needed to learn how to see the connections. Admiral Hayes watched the demonstration with growing alarm. If this was basic technology, what were the advanced capabilities? And more importantly, what did these mysterious architects want from humanity in return for such gifts? The revelation came during what should have been a routine security interview. Captain Rebecca Stone sat across from Admiral Hayes in the secure conference room, her enhanced eyes reflecting the soft lighting in ways that seemed almost hypnotic. For 2 weeks, Earth's leadership had been pressing for answers about the architects and their intentions. Finally, Stone decided humanity was ready for the truth. "Admiral, you've been asking the wrong questions," Stone said, leaning forward, with an expression of patient understanding. "You want to know who the architects are and what they want. But the real question is why the horizon's edge was chosen and why we disappeared when we did." Hayes felt her pulse quicken. "I'm listening." "The horizon's edge was not a random target. Our mission to the Kepler system was never about establishing a colony. It was about testing humanity's response to contact with superior intelligence." Stone's voice remained calm, but her words carried the weight of revelation. "We were selected because our crew represented a cross-section of human potential. Scientists, engineers, farmers, artists, teachers, and parents. The architects wanted to see how typical humans would adapt to knowledge and power beyond their current understanding." "You're saying the entire mission was a setup?" "Not a setup, a test. The architects have been observing humanity for over 800 years, watching your species develop. They've seen civilizations rise and fall, and they've learned to identify the traits that determine whether a species can handle advanced technology without destroying itself." Hayes gripped her pen tighter. "What traits?" Stone smiled with an expression that held both pride and sadness. "Adaptability without losing core identity. The ability to accept new knowledge while maintaining emotional connections. Most importantly, the wisdom to use power for creation rather than destruction." The full scope of the test became clear over the following days as Stone and her crew provided detailed accounts of their 15-year experience. The architects were not a single species but a collective of civilizations that had transcended physical limitations millions of years ago. They existed as pure consciousness, maintaining physical forms only when necessary for communication. They showed us the ruins of 12 civilizations that failed their tests, explained Dr. Michael Foster during his extended interview with Dr. Cross. Species that became so obsessed with technological power that they lost their capacity for growth and creativity. Others that used advanced knowledge to wage wars that consumed entire star systems. But some succeeded? Yes, the architects guided 47 species into what they call the greater community. Each one had to prove they could handle ultimate power with wisdom and restraint. The test administered to the Horizon's Edge crew was comprehensive and terrifying. They were given technologies that could reshape planets, knowledge that could extend life indefinitely, and abilities that made them individually more powerful than entire armies. Then they were observed to see how they would use these gifts. The first year was the hardest, admitted Chief Engineer Sarah Chun. We had crew members who wanted to return immediately to Earth with our new capabilities. They talked about ending war, curing disease, and solving humanity's problems by force, if necessary. What stopped them? The architects didn't stop them. They simply observed. But we learned quickly that the most powerful tools are useless without wisdom to guide them. 3 crew members attempted to use the matter conversion technology to create vast quantities of gold, thinking they could solve Earth's economic problems. The architects let them try. What happened? They succeeded. They created enough gold to destabilize every economy on Earth. Then they had to face the consequences of their actions. The architects made them live through detailed simulations of the chaos they would cause. Wars, famines, the collapse of social structures. They experienced every death that would result from their good intentions. The psychological pressure was immense. The crew was forced to confront the reality that good intentions combined with unlimited power could cause more harm than malicious intent with limited resources. They learned that wisdom wasn't about knowing what was possible, but understanding what was necessary. The architects didn't teach us to be gods, Captain Stone explained to Admiral Hayes. They taught us to be better humans. They showed us that the greatest power is knowing when not to use power. Commander Frank Miller revealed the most disturbing aspect of the test. We weren't the first human crew they took. Over the past 2 centuries, they've tested 17 different groups of humans. Ships that disappeared, research stations that went silent, exploration teams that vanished without trace. Most failed the test. Failed how? Some became obsessed with their own enhancement, losing connection to their humanity. Others tried to return to Earth as conquering heroes, planning to rule over their own species. A few couldn't handle the expanded awareness and descended into madness. Miller's expression darkened. The architects were forced to terminate those experiments. Terminate? The failed subjects were given peaceful deaths and their knowledge was wiped from existence. Their families never knew what happened to them. The crew of the Horizon's Edge succeeded because they maintained their essential humanity while adapting to enhanced capabilities. They continued to form friendships, fall in love, argue over trivial matters, and show concern for others. Their emotional range expanded rather than contracted, and they developed deeper empathy for all forms of life. The architects were particularly interested in our reaction to power over life and death, noted Dr. Foster. They gave us the ability to extend life indefinitely, even to resurrect the recently deceased. Then they waited to see what we would do. What did you do? We chose not to use it. We realized that mortality gives life meaning, and that removing death would fundamentally change what it means to be human. The architects were impressed by our restraint. The 15-year education was actually experienced as only 18 months due to time dilation effects. The crew lived in accelerated time while their bodies remained in temporal stasis. They learned to operate technologies that most species required millennia to develop, but more importantly, they learned why such technologies existed. The architects showed us the purpose behind advanced civilization, Stone explained. It's not about personal power or species dominance. It's about nurturing the growth of consciousness throughout the universe. Every species that joins the greater community becomes a teacher for those who come after. The test wasn't complete with the crew's enhancement. Their return to Earth was the final phase, designed to evaluate how humanity as a whole would respond to the presence of enhanced humans and impossible technologies. The architects were monitoring every communication, every government decision, and every social reaction. We're not just ambassadors, Stone told Admiral Hayes. We're the final test. How humanity treats us, how you react to our gifts, and what you choose to do with our knowledge will determine whether your species is ready for what comes next. The weight of that revelation settled over Earth's leadership like a heavy blanket. The decisions made in the coming months would determine the fate of human civilization for generations to come. The world changed overnight when news of the Horizon's Edge leaked to the public. Despite Earth Command's efforts to maintain secrecy, footage of the crew's demonstrations spread across every communication network in the solar system. Within hours, panic gripped major cities as people struggled to understand what the return of the missing ship meant for humanity's future. President Maria Santos stood in the Oval Office, watching global news feeds that showed riots in London, prayer vigils in Mumbai, and military mobilizations in Beijing. The enhanced humans had been on Earth for 3 weeks, and society was fracturing under the weight of their revelations. Madam President, we have reports of 17 different governments demanding access to the Horizon's Edge technology, reported Defense Secretary Robert Chang. The Chinese are threatening to withdraw from the Solar Defense Treaty if we don't share the propulsion systems. The Russians are claiming this violates the Non-Proliferation Accords. Santos rubbed her temples, feeling the weight of impossible decisions. What does Admiral Hayes recommend? She wants to relocate the crew to a secure facility on Mars, away from political pressure and potential violence. The recommendation came too late. That morning, Captain Stone had made an announcement that sent shockwaves through every government on Earth. Standing before the United Nations General Assembly, she had calmly stated that humanity had exactly 1 year to prove they could handle advanced technology responsibly. "The architects are watching," Stone had said, her voice carrying clearly through the assembly hall. "They see your reactions, your fears, your ambitions. They understand that humanity stands at a crossroads. You can choose wisdom and join a community of advanced civilizations, or you can choose fear and remain isolated for the next 1,000 years." The reaction was immediate and violent. Within hours, 3 different terrorist groups had claimed responsibility for attacks on facilities housing the enhanced crew members. Military contractors were offering billions for access to the matter conversion technology. Religious leaders were declaring the crew either divine messengers or demonic imposters. General Patricia Hayes found herself in the impossible position of protecting people who could reshape reality with their thoughts. The enhanced crew members could defend themselves easily, but they refused to use their abilities against other humans. When attacked, they would simply disappear, reappearing elsewhere with no apparent effort. "They're like ghosts," reported Colonel James Wright, head of the security detail assigned to protect the crew. "They can walk through walls, become invisible, and move faster than our sensors can track. But they won't fight back when attacked. Why not?" Captain Stone says that using their abilities against humans would prove the architects were wrong about our species. They'd rather die than validate humanity's fears. The political situation deteriorated rapidly. The European Union demanded immediate access to the medical enhancement technology, claiming it was humanity's right to benefit from the crew's knowledge. The African Federation threatened to withdraw from all international treaties if they advanced. Agricultural techniques weren't shared equally. South America's combined states began mobilizing their military, fearing that enhanced humans would destabilize the balance of power. In the midst of this chaos, Dr. William Cross made a discovery that changed everything. While studying the crew's genetic modifications, he found something that had been hidden in their DNA sequences. It was a message written in mathematical languages that could only be decoded by advanced quantum computers. "The architects left us instructions," Cross explained to Admiral Hayes in his laboratory. "Hidden in the crew's genetic code is a complete guide for human enhancement. Not just physical improvements, but mental and spiritual development techniques that could elevate our entire species." Why hide it? Because they wanted to see if we would discover it ourselves. The message is clear: humanity must choose to evolve rather than having evolution forced upon them. The discovery led to the formation of what became known as the Enhancement Project. Scientists, philosophers, and spiritual leaders from around the world gathered at facilities on Luna and Mars, working to understand the principles of human development that the architects had encoded in their students. Captain Stone and her crew served as teachers, but they refused to simply transfer their knowledge directly. Each person who wanted to undergo enhancement had to prove they understood the responsibilities that came with expanded abilities. "Power without wisdom is destruction," Stone explained to the first group of candidates. The architects learned this from observing thousands of species over millions of years. Those who survive and grow are those who choose carefully how to use their gifts. The selection process was rigorous. Candidates underwent psychological evaluations, ethical assessments, and practical tests that measured their ability to make difficult decisions under pressure. Only those who demonstrated exceptional moral character and emotional stability were accepted for the initial enhancements. Dr. Cross was among the first to undergo the transformation. The process took place in a specialized facility on Mars, away from Earth's political tensions. For 3 days, he experienced what he later described as a controlled disassembly and reconstruction of his consciousness. "It's not like gaining new abilities," Cross explained to his colleagues after the enhancement. "It's like remembering abilities you always had but never knew how to access. The architects don't give humans new capabilities. They unlock human potential that was always there. The enhanced humans began demonstrating their abilities to carefully selected groups. They could heal injuries that were previously fatal, communicate across vast distances without technology, and perceive patterns in nature that revealed solutions to complex problems. Most remarkably, they retained their individual personalities and human emotions. "We're still human," insisted Dr. Sarah Kim, one of the first enhanced physicians. "We still get angry, fall in love, feel joy and sadness. The difference is that we can see connections between things that were invisible before. We understand how individual actions affect the whole system." The program expanded slowly and carefully. Enhancement centers were established on Luna, Mars, and several asteroid stations. Each facility could only handle a few candidates at a time, and the selection process eliminated 90% of applicants. The architects, speaking through Captain Stone, made it clear that quality was more important than quantity. A single enhanced human who makes wise choices can guide thousands of others, Stone explained to world leaders. But a single enhanced human who chooses poorly can cause damage that takes generations to repair. The political pressure became overwhelming. Nations threatened war if their citizens weren't given equal access to enhancement opportunities. Terrorist groups targeted the facilities, claiming that enhanced humans were a threat to natural humanity. Religious movements declared the enhancement process either blasphemous or divine. Depending on their interpretation, through it all, the enhanced humans maintained their patient approach. They healed the injured, solved resource problems, and prevented conflicts through peaceful intervention. Their example began to influence those around them, creating pockets of cooperation in a world increasingly divided by fear and ambition. "The test isn't about the technology," Captain Stone explained to Admiral Hayes during one of their regular meetings. "The test is about character. The architects have seen species with far more advanced technology than ours destroy themselves through poor choices. They've also seen primitive species evolve into wise civilizations because they chose growth over power. As the year progressed, humanity faced a choice that would determine its future among the stars. The enhanced humans had shown what was possible. But the decision to embrace that potential would have to come from humanity itself. The architects were watching, waiting to see whether Earth's people would choose wisdom or remain trapped by their fears. The crisis reached its peak on a Tuesday morning in September when 3 enhanced humans were killed in a coordinated attack on the Mars facility. The perpetrators were members of the Pure Human Alliance, a terrorist organization that viewed genetic enhancement as an abomination against natural humanity. Their actions sent shockwaves through the global community and threatened to derail everything the architects had hoped to achieve. Dr. William Cross stood in the medical bay on Mars, looking at the bodies of his colleagues who had been murdered while trying to help injured miners. The enhanced humans could have easily defended themselves, but they had chosen not to use their abilities against other humans. Their restraint had cost them their lives. "They died because they believed in humanity's potential," Cross said to Captain Stone, who had arrived within hours of the attack. "They chose to trust rather than to dominate." Stone's expression was grave. The architects are aware of what happened. They're debating whether to continue the test or declare it a failure. What would that mean? All enhancements would be reversed. The knowledge would be removed from human consciousness. Earth would be quarantined from the galactic community. For the next 1,000 years, the news of the potential cancellation spread rapidly through the enhanced human community. Within days, representatives from every major nation were demanding emergency meetings with the architects' messengers. The reality that humanity might lose its chance at joining an advanced civilization focused minds in ways that months of political debate had failed to achieve. President Santos called for an emergency session of the United Nations. But this time, the meeting was different. Enhanced humans were invited to participate directly, sharing their perspectives on humanity's readiness for greater responsibility. The debate that followed was unlike anything in diplomatic history. "We stand at a moment that will define our species for generations," Santos addressed the assembly. We can choose fear and lose everything, or we can choose trust and gain more than we ever imagined. The Chinese representative, Dr. Liu Wei, had undergone enhancement 3 months earlier. His perspective had shifted dramatically from his nation's initial position of demanding technological advantages. I came to this process thinking about how enhanced abilities could benefit China, Liu admitted. But the enhancement showed me that national boundaries are illusions when you're dealing with species-level challenges. The architects don't care about human politics. They care about human wisdom. Similar transformations were occurring worldwide. Enhanced humans were beginning to form a new kind of leadership, one that transcended traditional political and cultural divisions. They worked together to solve problems that had plagued humanity for centuries, demonstrating possibilities that inspired both hope and fear. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Angela Martinez, the psychologist who had been studying enhanced humans, made a discovery that changed everything. She found that the enhancement process was subtly contagious, spreading beneficial changes to those who spent time in close contact with enhanced individuals. It's not a biological contagion, Martinez explained to a gathering of world leaders. It's a consciousness contagion. Prolonged exposure to enhanced humans gradually awakens dormant potentials in normal humans. The change is slow and voluntary, but it's real. The implications were staggering. Humanity didn't need to choose between enhanced and normal humans. The presence of enhanced individuals was gradually lifting the consciousness of everyone around them. The division that had been tearing society apart was based on a false premise. The architects knew this would happen, Captain Stone revealed. They've seen it with other species. Enhancement isn't about creating a separate class of beings. It's about catalyzing the evolution of the entire species. The revelation shifted the global conversation. Instead of fighting over who would be enhanced, humanity began focusing on how to create conditions that would allow natural evolution to proceed. Enhanced humans took on roles as teachers, healers, and mediators, while normal humans contributed. Their unique perspectives and experiences, the pure human alliance and similar organizations, found their support eroding as people experienced the benefits of enhanced human presence. Crime rates dropped in cities with enhanced populations. Environmental problems were solved through innovative approaches that combined enhanced perception with traditional human creativity. Medical advances accelerated as enhanced and normal humans worked together. They're not replacing us, observed Dr. Foster during a global broadcast. They're helping us become more than we were before. The final test came 6 months before the architect's deadline. A massive solar flare threatened to disrupt Earth's magnetic field, potentially causing widespread damage to the planet's ecosystem. Traditional technology was insufficient to address the crisis, but enhanced humans working together could create a protective barrier around Earth. The catch was that the effort would require the cooperation of every enhanced human on the planet, working in perfect harmony for 72 hours straight. Any conflict, any selfish motivation, any failure to maintain unity would result in the collapse of the protective field. "This is it," Captain Stone announced to the enhanced community. "The final test. Not just of our abilities, but of our ability to work together for the greater good." Enhanced humans from every nation, every culture, and every background joined the effort. They linked their consciousness across vast distances, creating a network of minds that functioned as a single entity while maintaining individual identity. For 3 days, they held the barrier steady, protecting Earth from solar radiation that would have devastated the planet. The success was unprecedented. Not only did they save Earth, but the process created a permanent connection between enhanced humans worldwide. They had become something new, a collective consciousness that preserved individual identity while enabling perfect cooperation. "We are no longer just human," Stone realized as the crisis passed. "We are becoming something that the architects hoped we could become." The architects' response came through dreams shared by every enhanced human simultaneously. The message was simple: humanity had passed the test. Earth was invited to join the greater community of advanced civilizations. but as junior partners who would continue to prove their worth through actions rather than words, the announcement was made on the first anniversary of the Horizon's Edge's return. Standing before the assembled leaders of Earth, Captain Stone delivered the architect's verdict. Humanity has demonstrated the qualities necessary for membership in the greater community, she said. You have shown that your species can adapt to new knowledge while maintaining its essential nature. You have chosen cooperation over domination, wisdom over power, and growth over stagnation. The celebration was muted by the understanding that this was just the beginning. Earth would now have access to technologies and knowledge that would transform human civilization, but they would also have responsibilities to help guide other species through similar transitions. The Horizon's Edge will depart next month, Stone announced. Not as a colony ship, but as Earth's first ambassador vessel to the stars. We will represent humanity to civilizations that have existed since before your sun was formed. Dr. Cross, now fully enhanced and serving as Earth's first enhanced human coordinator, watched the announcement with mixed emotions. Humanity had achieved something remarkable, but the real work was just beginning. We're not the same species we were a year ago, he reflected. We've become something new, something that bridges the gap between what we were and what we're becoming. The final image in the historical record shows Earth from space, no longer alone in the universe but taking its first steps toward a destiny among the stars. The blue planet glowed with a subtle energy that hadn't been there before, a sign that humanity was ready for whatever challenges and opportunities awaited them in the vast community of advanced civilizations.